Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, sir.
We are in a cigar lounge, which I think is pretty sick. This is Silverleaf Cigar Lounge in downtown Fort Worth. It's actually across from a comedy club I love going to called Hyenas. Mm-hmm. It's been here like 11 years, and it's not a huge cigar lounge, which is kind of nice. Super nice, super chill.
Very intimate.
Yeah. So thank you, Silverleaf, for letting us do it here.
This was the first cigar lounge I ever came to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like outside of, because I was like just smoking at my apartment when I used to live in Arlington.
Okay.
And so I was smoking at my apartment, and then I was like, I like smoking, but I want to do it indoors. So I just looked up cigar lounge, and this came up. I was like,
nice.
Sure. And I like the vibe. It's very intimate, cool. So
yeah,
I remember I was sitting over there by the door. That's where yeah.
What'd you smoke? You remember?
It had to have been a Monte Cristo.
Okay.
What most people, I guess, would start off with.
I think I started off with that barbacoa one.
Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a real good one. I'm a fan of what they do. I forgot who the company is called. I think it's called Rojas Cigars.
It's Rojas, and one cigar I got this year, their Cinco de Mayo cigar, was my favorite of all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't had that one, I bought when we saw him.
Yeah.
Me and a buddy of mine I smoke with all the time.
Yeah.
I bought like 5 of them and tore through them.
There's a brand out there called Las Calaveras.
Okay.
And every year they come out with a limited edition little. It comes in a cool wooden box. It slides open, and it just has 5 different vitolas of that year's blend.
What is Vitola?
Oh, vitola's like in cigars, it's the size.
Okay.
So
like the length or the thickness?
The both. It describes both. Okay. So, but more so. Well, I shouldn't say both, but more so, it's like the difference between like a torpedo, a robusto, a lancero, and like the different various sizes. The Churchill, those are called vitolas or sizes.
Okay.
So yeah, they come. It comes with like 5 in a box. I think the smallest one's a robusto, and then definitely comes with like a Churchill, a torpedo, and then one year it came out with a perfecto, which just means like it's tapered on both ends.
Okay.
And
I feel like that's like a Churchill type of cigar.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. Yeah.
Like the comical like cigar.
The comical stupid one.
You'd see them like in cartoons and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You see cigars.
There's another brand that called fuck. What are they called? Can I cuss?
Yeah.
All right. God damn it. Fucking shit. So there's another brand called Foundation Cigars, and they're probably like my favorite. Next to like what we're smoking here, which is Liga Privada T52. Next to Liga, the Foundation Cigars is probably my favorite thing to smoke, and they have one called the David and Goliath.
Okay. So
it's 2 different vitolas or 2 different sizes, but they're wrapped the same way. So they're perfectos. So they're tapered at both ends, but it's just a tiny bit fatter on the foot.
Okay.
And the Goliath is the exact same, except it's just way bigger, and it has more broadleaf in it. So it's just what I like. It's like it gives you that Maduro kind of punch.
Yeah.
And that shit is good. It's expensive, but it's like it's the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. They kind of like parallel the sling, I guess, is the bottom for David. It's like the bottom's thicker, kind of like to signify the sling, I'm assuming.
The what?
Or the sling for David and Goliath, or whatever you used to kill Goliath.
Is that what?
The sling.
What sling? Oh yeah. Sorry.
David, you know your Bible a little bit, right? You went to Bible school, not Bible school, but Sunday school.
Yeah, we learned about Xenu and the
That was,
and the Thetans.
Yeah, Scientology. Right? Yeah, that's what we all grew up with, right?
I got you. I was like,
funny.
slingshot? What the fuck are you talking? I got you.
You gotcha. All right, I did want to play a little icebreaker game. I hate calling it an icebreaker game, so eventually I'm going to figure out a better name for that. But I'm going to give you a couple for you, kind of like tailor it for the person.
Sure.
So this one's kind of hard to do. So this may be a bust. We'll see. I'm just going to give you some products in the audio world, and I want you to give me your first reaction, right? All right. So the first one is SM58.
Solid.
Beta 58.
Better.
It's better. Okay. What about the Audix D6?
Spongy.
Spongy.
Yeah.
Super 55.
Good looking.
What about sounding?
It actually sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll sit there and say that when I first started mixing it live, I was like, how's it gonna
work? Yeah, I kind of had the same thing.
And
I feel like I used an older version of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they were called, but
you probably used the Unidyne.
I think I used the Unidyne. I was like, this is horrible. But I could be I was also a really bad engineer back then.
No.
So.
I think there's something I read online where it's a slightly bigger capsule than the 58. I don't fucking know. Don't quote me.
Who knows? It's all the same. They're lying to you.
Yeah, I was gonna do your own research. Google that shit. Don't listen to me.
What about the SEV7?
They're fine.
Okay.
They're fine. It's not noticeable enough for me.
Okay.
So to me, it's fine. It's right on the par. It's on par with the 58. Like it's just,
SM58.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's fine.
KSM8. Have you used one?
Yes.
It's the I kind of call it the Trump mic because on the Hillary town hall debate they used KSM8s.
That's a front address, right?
KSM8. You can use it on a wireless mic. It's like, you know, the KSM9, KSM8. It's just a standard. The difference about the KSM8 is it's dual capsule, so it helps with proximity effect.
Then no, I think I'm mixing that up with that other the actual, like, it's a side address mic. It's a KSM.
Oh, okay. No, it's just a standard like vocal mic. Yeah, I honestly hate that microphone. I own 2 of them and I'm ready to sell. So,
well, I'm sure.
Especially for vocals. For talking, it's all right. But what about AKG 414s?
I like them.
You like them?
Yeah.
What do you like them on?
Overheads.
Okay.
I mean, that's mainly my exposure now. Is they're on the church I mix at. They use them for overheads. But
okay. Which ones are they? The gold ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we used them in and MediaTek's. We had a set of 414s, but they weren't the gold ones. They were like the silver? Yeah.
There's like silver 90s vintage ones, and there's older and older, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were vintage though. I think they were just whatever reissue they had. But yeah, I've used them on piano. I like them. They're great. Just don't think that they sound great on everything. Don't mic your snare with that shit.
And yeah, you might be careful with that. They'll just hit it.
Yeah.
But, okay, last one is Behringer DI boxes.
Cheap, and I've only ever come across one broken one.
Yeah.
And who knows how old it was.
Yeah. What's funny, I have a little funny story about those. So when I do sound, like a little tap test, make sure everything's working, sometimes what I do is I just step on the DI box.
Oh, yeah.
Because it makes a little bit of noise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's working.
That's funny.
Which I'm like, this is probably not good, but it's good for right now. So.
Oh, we got signal.
Yeah. I need a lighter because I am a loser. If you mind sending me one. Oh. Fancy Zippos.
Oh, shit. I got ash on your...
It's all right. Probably doing this wrong. Tell me how to do this right.
All right.
Relight this baby. I've had a couple different people tell me a couple different things to do. Just go from the sides. There you go.
Nah.
Now, do I also
Now-
puff it with the light or no?
So blow. So go. There you go.
There we go. Cool. Okay. Let's jump in here.
Yeah.
I've got a couple questions for you, man.
Yeah.
What would you say the best live sound mix you've ever heard? Who
Who's
was it? Where were you?
Who's the best mix I ever heard?
Live sound experience you've ever had?
I would say the best live sound experience was in recent memory was it's very niche, but it was a House of Blues, and it was a band called the Temper Trap.
Oh, it's not niche. Well, to me, it's not. It may be niche for others.
I was gonna say most people wouldn't. I mean, they're not on the radio or anything, but yeah, Temper Trap.
That's cool.
They were touring for whatever record they had come out that year, and my wife and I had a chance to go and see them, and I remember thinking like, because for me, when I try and go see shows, I just try and turn that part of my brain off, and I just try to enjoy it as a audience member.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's just one of those things where it just all sounded like the record, which is what we're all chasing. But it felt like the record incarnate.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
you know? And it wasn't like, they weren't overdoing it. They weren't like running that system to the limit, and they weren't like
It was just good.
mixing that kick drum to kill grandma, which like,
Start a heart attack.
yeah, it just was
Trying to change people's heartbeats.
Yeah, but it was so good, and then their light show was incredible. That's like the first time where, as an audio engineer, I was like, the lights look great.
Okay.
Like what a, you know.
I feel like for them, they gotta have nice lights.
yeah,
It kind of has like a psychedelic-y like element to it, or am I thinking of the wrong band?
I think you're thinking of a wrong band. You're probably thinking of like Tame Impala or some shit like that.
You said Temper Trap?
Yeah,
You know what? I'm thinking of Tame Impala. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Sorry.
yeah, but still, I remember it was great. So when I say recent memory, that was probably like 9 years ago or 8
It's
years
20
ago.
years ago.
It might have been like 6 or 7. It was definitely like 2016, 2017. So that's
Yeah.
that's still quite a bit of time ago. But yeah, I remember just thinking like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
Like this is just the shit. And then ever since then, I've most shows that I've been to don't sound terrible. There's only one show that I went to that I was like, this is fucking insanity. I can't believe it. And my wife and I, we stayed around for like 3 or 4 songs and we left.
Who was it?
Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh, no.
I know. I was like, trust me, the first song, I was like, let's give it a second.
Yeah. Where was it at?
Of all places, it was at Bomb Factory.
Okay.
Or whatever it's called now, the Factory.
The Factory, yeah.
Yeah.
They took it away.
This podcast, I will call it the Bomb Factory. And if you don't like it, eat shit. And the venue next to it will be the, what was that one called?
Now
Now it's called the Studio.
It was like, oh, shoot. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I know. It's like it starts with a C or something.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. If you know what it is, type it in the comment section.
Comments. Or text me.
Yeah.
Do you remember, well, let me ask this first. Why are you an audio engineer?
I'm an audio engineer because I'm not a good enough guitar player
Okay.
or bass player. That's like I think that's the first step to realizing like.
You just have to give up.
Or like, yeah. Well, I still play. I play at the house, but I remember like thinking like I had aspirations to move to LA, just be a session player, shit like. Because that's really what I wanted to do. I never wanted to be in a band. I never wanted to, be on YouTube and do wacky guitar or bass shit.
Uh-huh.
I was just always like, I think it would be cool if I played in the studio and I played on records and songs, and then I could tell people like, oh yeah, you hear that lick on that Katy Perry song? That's me, or whatever the fuck. And then I was like, that's insanely competitive. And around that time, I didn't have this defining moment where I was like, oh man, I fucking suck. But I just remember, like,
Had a bad gig.
yeah. Like,
I'm
fuck,
done with this shit.
what's all this Nashville number shit? But around that time, as I was kind of like retooling, like, okay, what do I want to do? I still want to do something with music. What can I do in that regard? And I remember I started just to gain interest on like what's happening on that side of the board or of the stage, if you will. How do they make my guitar sound like that? How do they make like, you know, because I'd been to concerts and I remember thinking like, it never once crossed my mind, but then more so I was like, how does one person make that sound the way that it does, you know?
Yeah. And
so little by little, I just started looking into it, and I was like, oh, cool, I can get paid to do this shit. I wanted to start doing like studio recordings. I wanted to be a studio engineer.
Did you go to Media Tech?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll say this. I'm going to preface with my opinion with this. I liked the school. It was great when I went. It's accredited now, so you have to take like math, science, and all that stupid use of shit. And all that, because at the end of it, they give you a diploma.
Okay.
But when I went, it was just strictly a trade school. You did 3 or 4, I think 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they were like, you've been here long enough. Here's the certificate. Please leave.
Yeah.
But the main focus for that school is studio stuff. And so everybody has this aspiration, like once they leave, they're like, okay, cool, I'm going to go to all these studios in Dallas and try and apply in at one of them. And it's like, no, there's hardly any. And back then it was 2014, 2015. Or 2013, 2014, so it's like it was.
Like you'd get lucky to be an intern.
Yeah.
At some of those, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like it was the emergence of people just doing shit at home, and you know, you could buy a Mac that was powerful enough to do all the shit you needed it to do at the house without us. And then you know, most bands would just go to a studio, rent a live room for drums, track that shit, and then like just mix it from there. So when I graduated, it was like all the dreams of going into the studio were kind of like just put on hold. Because then it was like, all right, there's no studios here, like in abundance, but there's a shit ton of live stuff. So I would say like the focus now should be equal. Like you shouldn't cut short the studio stuff. You should put more emphasis, like a slight emphasis, like a 60-40 on live.
Well, but just like, even just corporate, in my opinion, some of the things you need to know in corporate audio can help you so much.
Yeah.
Outside of that, like if you know how to ring out, if you know how to get a headset in front of a PA solid, like you can do a lot of troubleshooting when it comes to vocals jumping out in the audience, or want to wear a headset, or want to put a violin on stage and make it heard and all that stuff. Anyway, I think that helps a lot. But.
100%. And that's something that I didn't learn until after. So because I went into, or sorry, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of the question.
You're good.
But I know like when I didn't start in corporate audio. I started in live bands, 4-piece country bands at, Memphis and Bedford Ice House and Sherlock's and all these venues where you got live wedges on stage. You got to make that shit work. And then I got into, and then I've done like some corporate stuff, but not to the point where I'm front of house on that shit. You know, so like but to your point, like I can definitely see how learning that first, or at least certain principles there, carry over into live sound stuff and outside of corporate.
What was your first paid gig?
That's a good question. My first paid gig was at Media Tech, and I was in my last quarter, and one of my instructors said, hey, one of my buddies is coming in to track drums. He's a producer. He's got the drummer. They just need a Pro Tools guy to track drums. I was like, okay, cool. He goes, yeah, he's got the session. You just need to be you're the Pro Tools guy. I was like, fine. I don't want to be anything else. So,
and I'm willing to guarantee you were much more than just the Pro Tools guy.
No, I was just Pro Tools guy.
Oh, wow.
I was just Pro Tools
Surprising.
guy. And because we were just there to track drums.
Okay.
That's it. He had a scratch track. Guitar and bass had already been recorded at their house.
Uh-huh.
No, they just recorded into their 2i2 and sent it in, and we did 3 songs. I think it was 3 or 4 songs, like 3 takes each. Like, just seeing that, like, that was my first time being exposed to, like, oh, this is a producer working.
Yeah.
You know, like, we did one song. He's like, I want you just to play it straight. He's like, cool, let's do another one where you're playing it straight. If you want to change something, just do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third take was play it straight with a little bit of fill. And then the last take was overplay.
Okay.
You know.
Kind of splice it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we did that for 3 or 4 songs, and I got paid $125. I forgot how long the session was, but I got paid $125. And then MediaTek, it was right next to like a Chase Bank.
Okay.
So as soon as I got paid, I went and I deposited that check so that I wouldn't have a negative balance in my account.
Yeah.
I was like negative like 25, 30. I don't know. I was going to say that.
You're a student.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That wasn't walking around money at that point. So I remember going over immediately, going to that Chase Bank, depositing it. And I was like, oh, thank God. No overdraft.
Yeah.
So that was my first paid gig ever was that as an audio engineer.
What about your first paid live sound gig?
My first paid live sound was one of my instructors who was he was the live sound instructor at the time at
MediaTek?
At MediaTek, yeah. He did stuff on the side. He's got PA, gear, lights, all that stuff. He was he's like, hey, you seem like you're retaining the shit I'm teaching you. And you care, which I wouldn't say like most of the students there didn't care. Otherwise, why are you there? But it was more like they didn't care about the live sound aspect. They were so focused on like, how do I become a studio guy? Because I want to be that guy. I want to be a producer. Which is great. Like, that's why we were all there. But for some reason, I was just like, oh, the live stuff makes so much sense because it's all there. You don't have to necessarily like. I'll tell people this: like, you learn Audio 101, and you're learning it on a console, like a studio console, and you're learning Pro Tools, and you send up, you create an aux, and you bus it to this and the other, but then the aha moment comes when you do it live, and you see like, oh, that's the aux is that guy's wedge. And I'm sending this to that. Oh, and then the effect, it makes sense. So like,
yeah, it's very real time gratification.
Yeah. So for me, I was like, oh, this is what all that in the box shit is.
Yeah.
I'm just now seeing it like in a real world application outside of the box. And so I remember thinking like, that's pretty fucking cool. And there's more immediate gratification there because you sound check, you EQ the shit, and you just make it sound good right there, as opposed to.
Spend 6 hours later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where you might EQ something and you might record with that EQ or that compression, but then it's like you have to be careful. You can't take that away.
Right.
So I remember for me, I was like, oh, this is like the instant gratification I wanted. I can feel the kick drum. Yada yada.
Yeah, I can feel it in your chest.
Yeah. So anyway, he was like, hey, I do stuff on the side. If you want to come and see what this is in the real world, and eventually like apply it. I was like, yeah. So he would just tell me like, hey, I got these gigs, this. And I would just show up, help load in, set it up. I was very much a stagehand at that point. And I learned like a lot of principles, like how to run cable and how to do this and how to do that, all the basic shit. And then once I got that down, he would show me like, hey, let me show you how to run monitors effectively, yada yada yada. And then so that was my first paid gig, was with his name is Mark Wade. So working with him, that was my first like paid regular gig. And then after that, it was just like whatever he could find for me, or whatever, like through bands and connections and shit like that.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah.
What would you say your favorite gig has ever been?
My favorite gig ever. It's hard. It's hard because I forget a lot of them. like it's just
It's like a trauma response? Or
no,
what?
no, not necessarily that. It's just like, you know, you're there all day, and you're just like, all right, I'm fucking, like, nothing really stands out. I will say, I got to go to Italy this past summer and do an event there. So I would say that was pretty cool because there was equal amounts of time to play and work.
Yeah.
So we got some time in Milan. We were in Milan. So we got time to fuck around there and get on a train and go to, went to Sirmiano, which is about an hour and a half away. It's a really nice little coastal town.
Okay.
So, and then the actual gig itself was probably logistically, like the people in charge of the event, it was pretty like, it was kind of a headache for them.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But as far as like the audio portion, like it was great because the backline company was incredible. They had verified and checked everything when I got there, which is very not the case sometimes. Yeah. And so when I got in and I got to do all my checks, I was like, this is great. Everything's accurate. Everything's patched in correctly. There's nothing's like, there's no bad cable. Like it was just all, it made my job easy, and I could just go and have pasta after that. It's great.
Nice. Real pasta.
Yes. Pasta that didn't bloat me.
That's because their flour is different.
The heirloom flour or whatever
and
they call it.
Their water adds.
I had, what's that called? What's that green? Pesto.
Yeah.
I ordered a dish with pesto on it, and I was like, whatever. I'm in Italia. I have to...
Gotta partake.
Yeah. And so I ordered it. I was like, I'm not going to be picky. I'm just going to eat it. And it was really good, and I told my wife about it. And she was like, you fucking hate pesto. I was like, I know, but I like it here. But I realized it's because pesto. Like pesto there's different from here. From here, it's like very bright and citrusy.
Yeah.
So and herbaceous, which I don't like. And there, it's very dark,
savory.
It's very dark and savory, but it's light enough to lift whatever it's on. Mm-hmm. So it's doing that. They're both light, but this has more. The Italian one had more darker flavors to it that I really like. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna jump into a little bit of your job that you had with Jordan Kahn.
Yeah.
Kind of piggybacking off of working with a production company. What did you learn working with production companies when it came to those bigger events or overseas events, like having to get the logistics figured out and kind of making sure you have the right production crew that can actually handle what's going to happen. So
the question is, what did I learn advancing stuff with them?
Yeah, what was your, like, I guess maybe, like, what was your stuff you were looking for as far as, like, companies and, like, really making sure things were ironed out?
Yeah, so mainly we were looking for where all the concentric circles come. Are they competent? Do they come highly recommended? Do they have the gear? Is it the right price?
Right.
That kind of thing. And so we would ask event planners, like, hey, is there anyone you recommend that you've worked with in the past? Nope. Great. Now we just got to find it. And so pretty much when it came to advancing the gear and stuff like that, like the gear's not hard to get. And X32 is the same in any fucking language, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But I mean, X32 is X32, right? Or M32, whatever it is. And then wireless mics, it's either Shure or Sennheiser, you know. But obviously, when we could, we would always look for, cheap work isn't good work isn't cheap. So we always kind of we ended up not like overpaying, but just we're like, okay, well, it's going to cost us a little more to go with these guys, but they have all the gear. They can guarantee that it'll be up by 2-3 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
By the time we get the sound check, and so having those conversations with my boss at the time was like, all right, just, you know, it's not outrageously priced. It's a little bit more expensive. All right, let's just make it happen.
Yeah.
And so, I guess does that answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, was there ever like something that happened? You're like, okay, we're never gonna do this again. We have to have this process in place. Make sure this happens. Or
yeah, once I left that position, there were a series of things that happened that now with the new production manager that he's implemented new policies. Like, we did a gig in Morocco, and our flight from DFW was delayed by 3 hours leaving, and we had a 2-hour layover in London. So
you missed that flight.
We just missed it from the beginning. So, and we had checked bags, and musicians had checked their stuff. So once we landed in Morocco, all, you know, the gear was lost. Like, they lost, like, it was mostly the guitar player and bass player lost their bass and guitar.
Because they have to check that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made them do it.
That's scary.
And one of and then the sax player, he had to check his thing, and then I think he lost his luggage too. So he had like nothing.
Oh man.
So after that, they had to implement the process of, all right, for these international gigs, like where you're traveling through Europe and there's a multitude of points of failure. Like, we're just going to backline everything, but we're going to ask for standardized stuff, right?
Yeah.
We don't need a fucking Les Paul custom signature or whatever.
Just give me
all
a
the bells and whistles. Yeah,
or
you know,
a Strat.
Yeah, like, we're not going to ask for that. We're going to ask for a guitar that's either Stratocaster or Gibson Epiphone.
Yeah.
Something easy. And so when we did the Italy gig, that was the first time that they implemented that policy. So they didn't take any. The bass guitar player didn't take anything. The horns didn't take anything, and they just backlined everything there. So it worked out. The gear from what I understood was fine. They just took their pedal boards.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the guitar they had, the bass they had, they liked it. So. But that's one that I can recall, like, for sure. Like, hey, that happened. It wasn't under my tutelage, but
yeah.
That's the. I think that's the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when you were working for Jordan Con, you had to train engineers, and I know it wasn't really training them how to run sound necessarily. It was more of the setup, kind of whatever. Have you had experience actually training people from the ground up?
Like with audio, like Audio 101 and shit like that? No, no. I don't think I'd be good at it. I don't think so. I don't know why. I've never tried it, but part of me believes like I wouldn't be that great at it, and I would probably lose patience.
Yeah. You definitely need a lot of patience.
yeah. And God bless the people that taught me.
Yeah.
And
they got paid too.
They got
but yeah,
God bless the people that taught me and that drilled it into me, like gain structure, shit like that. But I don't think I'd be that great at it. But no, long-winded answer. No.
You're good. So what did you learn training the engineers that they needed to bring into the company?
What did I learn from training them?
Or processes, or like, what was your...
Well, I guess one thing that you don't learn necessarily is that it's not about you. You know, it's not about like they didn't hire you to hear your mix. They are just looking for a competent engineer that can follow directions and processes and repeat those processes over and over again while being accurate and efficient and not be an asshole. You know, so like a lot of audio guys, they want to walk in there and say like, well, this is my mix and this is how it's going to be and this and the other. And it's like, well, like to an extent, yeah, you're responsible for that mix, but like, it's not like they're not there to see you. You have to, you know, it'd be great to like mix up. You don't want to mix a party band like a metal band. That'd be great, but like, you're not gonna do that
if
shit.
they were a metal band, metal band, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, this is not like this is a private event. We're not gonna run it insanely loud. We're not gonna blow the crowd away necessarily.
Yeah.
So just teaching them like, hey, you're mixing differently here.
Yeah. It's a very specific type of event.
Yeah.
Very specific clientele. You know, and that changes from gig to gig, even within the company too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You'll be doing gigs at Dallas Country Club, where it's probably one of the best sounding rooms in DFW, aside from the Ritz Dallas. And then the next week you'll have a gig in Austin where there's an 80 dB limit.
Yeah.
400 feet from the stage, 200 feet from the stage, and you're like, woof.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you just have to. At that point, people don't want to. Like, that's where they're like, ugh, you mean I can't do the same shit I do everywhere? Like, no, because
honestly, I've learned in those situations when I've had to mix quieter, it challenges me a lot. Like, how to get. And when I worked in church, we had a dB limit, and that was kind of a journey I had. So I was mixing in a room that's very not treated enough, very tall ceilings.
Yeah.
And so how do I get a great sounding mix under 90?
Yeah.
You know, and that was tough. But you learn a lot trying to figure that out. And if you can get it, then good on you. So
yeah.
But I've had a gig one time where it was I think it was like 93.
It's very specific.
Probably 93 dB, probably 100 feet away from the stage in a very reverberant room. And I had a certain drummer, and you probably know who I'm talking about, that is not very controlled.
Yes.
And I had to have a very, not a stern, but a very straightforward conversation.
Yeah, you're like, hey man.
Because I had the PA. I was talking to the venue person. She had the dB meter, and I was like, okay, let me try something. I muted the PA, and it was still like 97.
It was just all stage volume from.
It was just drums.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, I gotta go have some conversations. So, ended up figuring it out. But yeah, that was a battle, that whole gig. But
yeah.
So, trying to think here. How would you explain your job when you were at Jordan Con? You're obviously the production manager.
I was the production manager. Basically, my job was to advance production.
Yeah.
When I needed to.
Yeah.
Manage engineers and vans to make sure that they were where they needed to be.
Yeah.
Make sure that the events were staffed with engineers. Make sure that the gear in there was working, and
you were scheduling
recruiting. Yes, yeah. Which I would file that under, making sure that every gig had a van or every gig had an audio engineer.
Yeah.
So,
and I think also for a while you were scheduling musicians.
I was doing that for I was doing that for a tiny bit. Until
they found somebody.
Until somebody else in the company took that part over, which he's the perfect one for that job.
Yeah.
Very extroverted, likes people, likes to talk to people. I mean, I don't hate people, but just the musicians they're a whole other breed.
They are.
And dealing with them is on a daily basis is not great. Dealing with audio guys already is not. That's something else. So dealing with musicians on top of that, it's like, oh shit, I gotta.
Yeah.
I have my engineer hat on. Let me put my musician hat on.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did that. Yeah, but that was short-lived. somebody else took that over, thank God.
Okay.
And then I would also recruit and train people. So, and I would talk to my boss about, like he would set the expectation. This is what we need to show them. This is what to put emphasis on. And things like that.
Cool. So I've heard about a time, and I want you to tell me the story.
Mm-hmm.
A time that you rolled a van on accident, and you still made it to the gig on time.
Oh, I sure did. So
I want you to tell that story.
Okay. So this was early on where I was just an audio engineer for the company. I didn't have any other responsibilities, just audio guy. I had one job, pick up the van, make it to the gig, don't flip it on the way there.
It's in the contract.
Yeah, it's in the contract.
Don't flip the van.
Yeah. Company policy is if you're going to die, you got to do it on your day off. So, I was headed to Houston, and I was in these Ford Transit vans, like the older ones, where they're smaller, but they have kind of a roof.
That's what I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like yours.
Yeah.
But not like the super insane tall roof. Just
okay,
what
just a little
exactly
bit.
what you have.
Okay.
And so back then we would pack that shit super stupid high, and we didn't have as much the gear that we do now. But I'm driving along, and I keep hearing like this noise that sounds like something's hitting like the back of my van or something. So I look and I don't see anything. Then I think it's probably a flat tire. That's probably super flat, or I don't know. That was my only guess. So I pulled over. I was in like the far left lane to pass somebody, and then once I passed them, I was like, all right, let me get to the shoulder. So once I get to try to get to the shoulder, the tire, the tread of the tire just flew off.
Oh, no way.
Just that's it. Like I have pictures of it. It's great, where you just see like a bald tire, like with the tread ripped completely off. And so, as that happens, the ass end of that van whips insanely hard in one direction, and I couldn't. I think because of the motion, like my hand moved, or I couldn't gain control of the steering wheel that great. So I was just trying to like keep it straight, but maybe I was trying to turn against the skid instead of into it, or whatever they fucking tell you to do.
Do a little Cars action, little Lightning McQueen.
I never saw that movie.
Oh man, they'll get it.
I like to think it was my Gone in 60 Seconds moment, but I don't know if he ate shit in that movie. I don't remember if he ate shit in that movie.
I don't think I've seen that movie, to be honest with you.
Well, whatever. It was my John Wick moment. Fuck it. We've all seen John Wick? Okay.
They've probably seen it, yeah.
All right. Well, whatever. Anyway, I lost control. So I just remember like I was spinning, and then I ended up coming off the road, and then I remember tumbling and flipping. And so when I tumbled and I flipped, I landed in a ditch, and I was like wheels up. So I'm wheels up, and like the seatbelt's like holding me in.
Yeah.
And so I undo the seatbelt, and I'm able to get out of the passenger van because driver's side door had been it had bent the frame on that end, so like there's no way I could get it. Maybe if I broke the window, but called out of the passenger side, and then I called my boss and I said, hey, I might have flipped the van. He's like, what the fuck do you mean you might have?
Was this Mark?
No, this was my boss at JKMC.
Okay.
And I call him, and he's like, what the fuck do you mean you might have flipped the van? And it's like, okay, I flipped it. It wasn't on purpose. So anyway, I sent him pictures, and luckily, like, there was a police officer that saw it all happen. He had made a U-turn to go back to Dallas, and he saw that happen, and he's like, well, gotta make a fucking U-turn. Again, gotta see if... So shit, I hit your mic. He made a U-turn again. He's like, I gotta see if this fucking idiot's dead or not. So, long story short, audio guy that was in town still, he didn't have a gig that day. He brought me another van. I got in that van, drove to Houston. He stayed there with the tow truck guy, They drove to wherever they were impounding it, whatever. And then still made it to the gig on time. And I was set up in time for sound check and all that shit.
Were you? I'm guessing you were a little rattled after that.
I was rattled, but I was not hurt, which was good.
That's good.
Like, you know, the seatbelt was, from where the seatbelt was holding me, there was like a little bit of a rash.
Was there a cage on that van?
There was no, this is great. There was no cage.
Oh, jeez.
There was no cage, but that was the van where we had decided to try a new set of speakers.
Okay.
And so somehow the way the speakers fit in the van, they were like a lot bigger than the normal Euro Live bullshit Behringer we were using. And so because they were so big, they kind of stopped themselves. But if we were just using like the Behringer normal stuff, I think that would have rolled to the front. I think it would have taken my head off. I truly believe it. But because they were wider and taller, or longer and taller, that when they rolled, like the distance between the seat, the headrest, and like the top of the cab, like it was just too big for it to move.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure the Behringers would have taken my head off, maybe,
or
at least slammed it into the steering wheel.
That would have been rough.
I would have been concussed slightly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So anyway, so then story goes is I ruined it for every audio guy that's like, oh, I can't make it.
I can't make it to the gig. Yeah, literally, I've heard that story.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I can't make it. It's fucking raining outside. I can't make it.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know.
Do you remember, if you can speak to this, your least favorite gig ever?
I can't speak to it because it's one of those things where there are certain parts of gigs that go well and go bad.
Yeah.
But I can't think of one that is like, whoa. Like, I'll die thinking about how horrible that gig was. I just know, like, there's times where, you know, it's a long day to begin with, and it's like, I would just say this, like, if it's I remember. It was with a production company. It wasn't with Jake Games, it was a production company. And I remember it was for the Frisco Freedom Fest, I think, or whatever they do every 4th of July. I was working with a production company, and I was supposed to be the A2.
Kaboom Town?
No, not Kaboom. That's
okay.
Addison, I think.
Oh, I don't know where I am. I don't know where anything is.
Okay. Well, Frisco is north. It's way north. But Frisco has their own thing on 4th of July.
I did Frisco last summer.
Did you?
Yeah, and that's where we had our first cigar.
We had our first what?
Had my first cigar.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was at that gig.
That's right.
Is that the same one?
It's the same one.
Okay.
So obviously, as you remember, the production company supplied the PA console. You just send them left, right, sub, all that shit. So I remember we're doing that gig. The folks at the production company had told me, hey, we need a A2. Jim Billy Bob is going to be mixing out front. I said, perfect. I remember we set up the night before. We left. Came back, and it had pissed rain the night before.
Oh, no.
But I had left early because they were supposed to do like a 3rd of July DJ thing, whatever, right?
Whoop.
So that whole thing is like open on the 3rd of July. They have a DJ up there, and all the food trucks and shit are open. So I asked the front of house guy, like, am I good to go? Like, unless you really want to hang around and like manage the DJ with me, but it's too.
You're like, no.
it's two inputs. I was like, oh, I'm good. So I left, and the next morning I get there, and the console wasn't covered. So
the monitor console.
Yeah, well, it was the console that was driving everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it was like I think it was a M7, I think.
I was an M7.
Yeah, it was a Yamaha console for sure.
Okay.
And it wasn't covered. It pissed rain on the console, so we had to get one shot to us. I forgot what we ended up using. It might have been an X32. I don't know. Anyway, meanwhile, like the whole monitor world is like in water. So like the whole time, the whole day, my feet were in water the whole day.
Oh, jeez.
And it's one of those on the Frisco Freedom, whatever the fuck it's called. They have multiple, like when the program starts, like at noon, they have acts go up, and it's all local singer-songwriters, young kids and stuff that go up and do stuff.
Yeah.
So, chick would go up. She would with her acoustic guitar. She sings 2 songs, comes off. This guy goes up and does like few dance routines, comes off, that kind of thing. And so, like, I'm having to deal with all that, and I'm in water, and
Yeah.
and front of house guy is just like, man, it's really hot out here. I'm like, oh, yeah, all right, sure is. We're all going through it, I guess. So, you know, it's just dealing with all that stuff, and then the headliner every year, or at least at that point, headliner every year was Jordan Kahn. So they were the easiest part of the day. They just send you left, right, sub, and
they don't need monitors.
they don't need monitors. So,
Yeah.
And then I think the second band before them didn't need anything either. So once like the young kid thing was done, then it was like, all right,
Easy mode.
I can just make sure like they're not gonna blow anything.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, cool, they're on. I'm gonna go. Like, there's no break. I was like, but I gotta go take a piss. As soon as I go take a piss, I'm in the porta potty, and I hear the music. Toon, toon.
Oh no!
I was like, oh,
that's a heart
shit.
drop moment.
Oh, dude. So like I zip up my pants midstream. I fucking run out of there, and apparently one of the amps had overheated.
Oh man.
Or multiple lamps had overheated.
Yeah.
And so we had to wait like a few minutes to let it reboot and cool down and all
You're
that
blowing
shit.
on it.
Yeah. I was like, fuck. Like, what else? What else is gonna go wrong? But yeah, and then we ended up like, it was just a long day.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably like the worst one, because
Yeah.
you know, I was there at fucking 7 a.m. and didn't leave until 3, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's funny. What would you say your advice to an aspiring live sound engineer just getting started, whether it's career advice or getting a job or whatever?
I would say just say yes. Say yes to everything you can,
Yeah.
because you never know what that will lead to. You never know if that will lead to a regular gig. Like, say yes to a band and every year they want to take you out on tour with them, cool. Or you might get like a job at like a house gig.
Yeah.
You know, House of Blues or whatever.
Yeah. Or on a tour.
Or on a tour.
Randomly.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of people get tours, gigs, just
Yeah.
randomly wherever they're at.
Yeah, but also like you learn experience too. You learn what it's like to work with different acts, you know, because if you say yes to everything, you're gonna be doing a 4-piece country band one day, and then the next day it's a acoustic singer in a cajon, or
Yeah.
an 8-string quartet, not quartet, an 8-string ensemble, or something like that.
And it well rounds you too.
Yeah, and you don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah.
Which, you know, unfortunately, you depending on who you, like, if you're the type of person that's just like looking for something solid all the fucking time, like, yeah, that's great, but you may become stagnant at some point.
100%.
Like, I'll tell you this, like, if you were like, what's one thing, like, if you were to ask me what's one thing that you wish you knew how to do but you don't know how to do, it's like fly a PA.
Yeah.
Because the production company that I was working at, they would always want me to go and do shows and stuff like that, and it's like, well, I'm busy doing stuff elsewhere. So I was mainly just like a shop hand.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wouldn't say like that's an essential thing, is to know how to fly a PA. I mean, it's
Yeah.
good to have, it's good to know, but you know, it's more important to understand gain structure when you're mixing a metal band versus gain structure when you're at a church gig or acoustic guitar
Yeah.
and a cello, you know, that kind of thing.
For sure.
Like you'll definitely like those by you learning and adapting to those situations, that'll get you more work and more experience in the end, as opposed to like learning how to fly a PA or being like L-Acoustic certified, and those things will open doors for you, but
For sure.
it's not the it's not the end all be all, if you will.
Yeah. What would you give? This might be a weird question. What would you give advice? What would be your advice to? I'm trying to think of somebody who you would know that I would know, like a really rock solid engineer, like the best. Like to me, that's like Pooch Van Druten, if you know him, or a Chris Greeley, or
Okay.
what kind of advice would you give them?
What would I give them?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know.
I know it's not an easy question.
No, what the fuck do I tell them? Fucking. I would say like keep listening to music.
Yeah.
You know, don't. I know that for me, when I'm done at a gig, that's the last thing I want to do is listen to anything. I want to sit in silence on the car ride home, or
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to music until I have to get into the car the next day or what have you.
Yeah.
But I would say like if you're constantly mixing the same band or the same style of band, like don't be afraid to venture out and to like explore your musical taste more,
Yeah.
because then that could inspire you to do other things, or if you're like you listen to a record and you're like, man, that sounds great, who produced it? You go down that rabbit hole, they might teach you something that you may have not thought to implement, or like I've always thought of this way, but they approach it this way,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So I would just say like don't stop listening to music. I know it's really easy to just get caught up in the whole podcast thing, and that's what you want to listen to, and I know for the longest time I was like I only listen to music at the show,
Right.
but I'm listening to podcasts and I'm enriching my mind or whatever the fuck elsewhere. But now more and more now, because I'm listening to different types of music and more often, like there's parts of me that like make mixing more enjoyable because of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
much
No,
sense.
when I worked at this place called Music Bed, they're like a music licensing company. My job was to essentially categorize music by genre and instrumentation, all that. And I mean, I'm listening to music 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And outside of that, I didn't want to listen to anything. And on top of that, I was an audio engineer. And so my way of kind of making music fun again
Yeah.
was getting into vinyl.
Okay.
And especially old vinyl. And that really made me appreciate kind of the techniques that they were doing to make it sound that good back then.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of those same attributes applied today, used correctly.
Yeah.
Simplifying how many mics you use.
Yeah.
Sometimes simple processing is good. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes a lot of processing is great. But simple is a good place to start.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Last question. What would you give? What would be advice for yourself? If you were talking to yourself, we're going to go into a therapy session here.
All right.
What would you give? What would be your advice to yourself?
When? Just now?
Now. Right in the moment. In your career. What do you think would be great advice for you?
I would say you have the luxury of not being tied down to anything. So now's a good time to start saying yes again.
Yeah.
So obviously when you're the PM of a company and your priority is that company, and you know, it kind of I don't want to say it, you're spoken for in regards to like your weekends and any other, like if you want to go on tour or what have you. But now that I am just a freelance engineer, I would say, yeah, just start saying yes again to stuff.
Yeah.
And see where that takes you.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on.
I do what I can.
I don't know how I'm ending these. I'm just going to do that. There we go.